Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. Today we will review Bram Stoker's Dracula. I believe this is actually my first time seeing this movie, which is crazy because I do like all of the... Sorry. I do like all of the actors in this movie, so it is kind of crazy that I've decided, or I have just never seen this. But I guess it kind of came up because of me watching the Dracula Untold and all that. It was kind of, I think it was in my suggested actually, or maybe it was newer to Netflix. I can't quite remember. Anyhow, this movie was long, or at least it didn't feel long, but it was a long movie. And the storyline was actually really quite good. So we start off with the same kind of story where the Dracula character is, or Dracula, or however they pronounced it in this movie. It was kind of an odd pronunciation in this movie, to be completely honest. But we start off with him. Basically, it was kind of the same idea. He was some sort of warrior that wasn't supposed to make it back from battle, I guess. But then when he obviously won that battle, but the Turks sent an arrow into the castle, telling his wife that he was dead. So she flung herself off of the castle into the river and dies in the process. So he then denounces God and stabs the cross and drinks the blood and then becomes the vampire Dracula. And then obviously lives on eternally because he is now an immortal being and has to bury his wife and so on and so forth. Anyway, it goes to... I'm not really sure how far it was supposed to be in the future. Clearly a couple centuries later, I guess, because it was it was in the 1860s, I know that much. I can't remember whether it was 61 or 67. Anyhow, so we go to this character, Jonathan, who's a reporter or butler or something. Anyway, he's told to go to this place in Transylvania, being Dracula's castle, obviously. I guess to kind of maybe tell his life story. And then as he's in the castle, things start to get a little weird. He starts to notice stuff that's not normal. Like, as soon as he gets there, the carriage that picks him up and the wolves chasing him through this, like, weird blue... I don't know whether it was supposed to be, like, fire or, like, a force field or something, maybe. But things start to get weird, and then Dracula eventually tells him not to go into certain parts of the castle. He ends up meeting all three of Dracula's brides in one scene, which was... Yeah, anything that happens in that castle is kind of weird, because you know that he basically knows that he's become a prisoner at one point in time. And then in this movie, Dracula can actually take many forms. At one point, he takes the form of... I don't know, he's in the form of beast and in the form of a human at the same time, I think, is how that worked. I'm not really sure. It was kind of odd, because I believe he had, like, these cases or boxes of, like, this weird dirt stuff, and I believe that was how he took his many forms, was that he just created these boxes and then got them shipped into London so he could be in more than one place at once. Anyhow, so Jonathan is trapped in the castle as Dracula tries to get his bride back, because the woman that Jonathan is with, why can't I think of her name? Whose name was Mina, looks a lot like Dracula's old bride, so he starts to sort of hone in on her and try to bring the princess out of her, I guess, or put the princess's soul into her. He eventually is successful because she starts to slowly fall in love with him, and he also makes her best friend Lucy basically like a willing subject to him, And then she becomes a vampire as well, and basically she would have been the next generation of vampire to basically feed on humans for an eternity, I guess, in case anything ever happened to Dracula. I suppose he kind of uh, would be passing it down to the next generation. Anyhow, he eventually gets inside of Mina's head so bad that she basically does almost his every bidding. And then it gets to a point where Van Helsing has to be called in, who was actually played by Anthony Hopkins. And I guess they didn't go quite as far as the other Van Helsing story where he ends up turning into a werewolf, because I believe, unless that was just part of the Hugh Jackman interpretation of it, I'm not really sure. But anyhow, he was kind of odd in this movie, I guess, because he was supposed to be some sort of doctor, so he's like an experimental doctor. And he then finds out that this Dracula character has taken control of Lucy, and now she is obviously hungry for human blood because she tries to kind of draw everybody in. And the scene where she gets transformed originally was really odd because he's in beast form and she's like gets drawn to him somehow. So Mina tries to chase her, but by the time she gets to her, it's already too late. It was this really weird scene. You'll just have to go watch the movie to get that glory of that scene. It was quite odd. Anyhow, because he was in beast form when he came to transform Lucy, so he didn't want Mina to see him because he believes that she is the princess. So when they first meet, she kind of wonders whether he's friends with Jonathan, and then he slowly starts to work his way in from there, because we all know Jonathan is actually trapped in the castle, and he's basically stuck with the brides of Dracula every night, and they just feed on him just enough to make him weak enough to not leave the castle. Eventually he is able to escape, and he does fall into the river, and he goes to the sisters of something. I can't remember what it was. But then Mina and Jonathan get married. Obviously, Dracula's still trying to work his way in somehow. And by the time Jonathan gets out of the castle, his hair is gray, so he looks quite a bit older now. So I don't really know how long he was actually trapped in there, but it was only supposed to be him staying with Dracula for about a month. So in this movie, and then Dracula, the scene where, yeah, wait, sorry, let me slow down here. What was I saying? He gets out, him and Mina get married, Dracula still tries to work his way in. Eventually, Van Helsing and his crew have to kill Lucy, obviously because she's become a vampire. So I guess in this movie it's kind of different. They stake the vampires and then they cut their heads off. But the scene where Lucy gets the thirst for human blood eternally, I guess, was Dracula transforms into a wolf and kills her in a way so that she is now undead. So in this movie, Dracula transforms into a beast, a human, rats at one point. He's also the normal creature, like the bat-like human hybrid type thing. And then he's himself, it's almost like kind of like I guess he's a very aged man, so he's really old now. He had many forms in this movie, and I guess he can take many forms and even turn into like a mist type deal and disappear and stuff. But yeah. So at the very end scene where they're chasing Dracula back to his castle, it looks like he might actually get away with all of his crimes, obviously, and what he's done to Mina. Because the night before, they try to get Mina to... The brides of Dracula try to get Mina to kill Van Helsing, and she's almost successful, but he snaps out of it just before and puts a ring of fire around her, and then goes into the castle and chops the heads off of the brides of Dracula, which was, I mean, maybe a little bit of overkill, but I suppose they would have just kept trying to come back through the night, and eventually they would have been successful in their mission as well. So the very end scene was quite intense, where they're chasing Dracula up the mountain back towards his castle, because then Mina starts this storm, and she goes to basically try to stop them from actually killing Dracula. They aren't necessarily successful themselves, because Mina and Dracula get back into the castle, and he says that he's failed in his own way, and then she finishes him off because he says, give me peace," I believe was his line, or "give me salvation," or something along those lines anyhow. And so she drives the knife the rest of the way through him and kills him. And then she's kind of free from her, I guess, vampire bonds, or however, or his bonds, I guess, really, because she was slowly turned into a vampire herself, I believe. So yeah, it was a very interesting movie, actually. I guess this is more based on the book, so I might have to get the book at some point in time. And actually, this kind of makes me want to read my book here on the shelf, so I'll probably add that into one of my lists to do a review of, because I need to start reading more. So yes. And I've promised books in the past and just have never gotten around to them, because seems like I've been doing so much other things. But this movie is probably the second movie that I will rate an 11 out of 10, because it definitely, for as long of a movie as it was, it didn't feel as long as it was, and the storyline was really good, and all of the acting was phenomenal. So I will say this movie would be the second one that I'll give an 11 out of 10. Just because, yeah, it was that good of a movie. I highly recommend going to see it if you haven't. It's quite a bit of an older movie, but I mean, the graphics wise, for its time, I mean, even going back and seeing it today, there's some movies that use CGI now, and I'm not sure how much CGI effects would have been in this movie, but yeah, I would say maybe they probably had people sit down in a makeup chair for hours on end just to get some of these looks down completely, and it was on point. It was really good. Well done on that point. And it had, I don't think I've ever seen this movie before. It had Keanu Reeves in it, who I didn't know, and Winona Ryder, and Gary Oldman was Dracula, which was a very different role than I've ever seen him play. And Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing was kind of shocking for me, because I wasn't expecting that. And yeah, it was just a very interesting movie, a very good movie. And I guess maybe the warrior was still supposed to be Vlad the Impaler, possibly, without them actually saying it. I'm not really sure, because it kind of looked like it was the same storyline, like he came from the Dragon Warriors, if I'm saying that correctly. I think I might be. So I think that was kind of like supposed to be the same story. It was that he was Vlad the Impaler, but instead of going to another vampire like in Dracula Untold, he just realizes that his bride is dead and denounces God, and then he kind of has the devil inside of him now, I guess, is supposed to be the kind of story there. But anyhow, that is all I have to say for this film. Please go watch this one. Highly recommend it. I know it's a little older, but some of these old films stand the test of time as far as I'm concerned, and this one, I would say, would probably be one, even though it's only my first time seeing it. I will probably go back and watch it again. Obviously not right away, but, maybe in a few months from now I'll go back and watch this one again, because it was really good, and I kind of want to understand the story a little bit better than I do now. But this is my review of it, and I will see you guys in the next one. So please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film. Bye bye for now.